West Virginia Senator Joe Manchin saying that the social spending bill is not a done deal.
I will not support a reconciliation package that expands social programs and irresponsibly adds to our $29 trillion in national debt that no one sees.
It's just not accurate. The original Biden plan added wealth and corporate taxes the president said fully paid for the social spending. Senator Manchin rejected it. Andy Field, ABC News, Washington.
The eyes of history upon us and the profound questions before us. It's simple. Will we act? Will we do what is necessary? Will we seize the enormous opportunity before us?
The president says this is the decisive decade for countries to confront global warming. The Supreme Court heard nearly 3 hours of oral arguments today against a Texas law which bans most abortions. The case to run the court heard in 19 hours.
There's a loophole that's been exploited here, or used here, which is the private suits are enforced by state court clerks or judges.
That loophole established a precedent for people to sue state officials in federal court for alleged constitutional violations. Stocks closed higher today. You're listening to ABC News.
Loved ones, tune into the Wise Money Guys show Sundays at 1.
And a time to be calm. A time to be aggressive and a time to be conservative, especially when it comes to investing. You've heard the phrase, to everything there is a season and a time to every purpose.
Hello, I'm Mo Ansari, president of Compact Asset Management. At Compact, we strive to provide you with the tools and experience it takes to be in the right place at the right time to grow and protect your hard-earned money. Call pound 250 on the cell phone and say talk to Mo, and let's check your goals together. You'll get a free portfolio review and risk analysis, and we focus on your investment strategies. Call pound 250 on your cell phone and say talk to Mo, or visit us online at compact.com. That's compact.com.
Mejor en la vida, como obtener una oferta increíble en Internet asombroso. Por eso es el momento perfecto para cambiarte a Xfinity. Obtén el Internet rápido y confiable que te mereces por $19.99 al mes por 12 meses, con contrato de 1 año. Y por primera vez, pregunta cómo obtener velocidad 12 veces más rápida al mismo precio de Internet, agregando Xfinity Mobile. Imagínate, descargas más rápidas, más streaming, las posibilidades son infinitas. Es más velocidad y más valor por el mismo precio. Además, pregunta cómo obtener un teléfono 5G elegible por cuenta nuestra y por tiempo limitado, $300 de reembolso. No esperes más, cámbiate ya. Te mereces un Internet asombroso. Ve a es.xfinity.com, llama al 1-800-333-0010 o visita una tienda hoy. Requiere facturación.
They fight to get you the most money possible. It doesn't matter your legal status, you still have rights. Remember, it's the insurance company's job to say no. It's B&D Law Group's job to get them to say yes. Car, motorcycle, truck accident experts, dog bite specialists, slip and fall teams of lawyers. Expert lawyers are standing by to take your call. Call them right now at 916-545-7772 and discuss your case. It's always free to call. 916-545-7772. Get the compensation you deserve and pay nothing unless they win. Call them right now, 916-545-7772. Remember, when the insurance company says no, it's their job to get them to say yes. Get the compensation you deserve regardless of your legal status. Call now, 916-545-7772. 916-545-7772. D&D Law, Injury Law. They fight to get you the most money possible.
And I really appreciate you picking up the bill.
I'm happy to. I've got the extra cash. Since we've all been driving so much more again, I've been using Get Upside, the free gas app that pays you cash back for every gallon of gas you buy.
Wait a minute. Are you saying you actually get paid cash when you buy gas with the Get Upside app?
Yes, up to 25 cents a gallon. Cash back every time I buy gas.
Does that actually add up to anything?
Some months I make $200 to $300.
Wow, that's serious extra cash. I'm downloading the free Get Upside app now.
Download the free Get Upside app now in the App Store or Google Play to save up to 25 cents a gallon when you buy gas. Use promo code TRIP for a 25 cents a gallon bonus on your first tank. That's up to 50 cents a gallon on your next fill-up. You can cash out anytime to PayPal or an e-gift card for Amazon and other brands. Just download the free Get Upside app and use promo code TRIP for a 25 cents a gallon bonus on your first tank. That's code TRIP.
Let's get ready to rumble! welcome to the show. My name is Charlton with Big C. This is Charlton with Big C Sports, coming to you worldwide on the Big C Sports Network, on the #1 network in the United States of America. And Big C Sports has been voted the #1 sports show in the universe, according to Big C and all the good boys that follow sports. I want to say bienvenidos. What a beautiful November the 1st, 2021. Grando Deportes, Bonjour, Divinivice, all fair, and Love and War. My goodness, I did not do any trick-or-treating last night because I don't want any COVID candy. I didn't think that would be great. You can't go into certain restaurants. You can't go into work in certain places without having a COVID vaccine. Why in the world would I want someone to put their hand in a bag and then give me out some candy? It's all fair and Love and War. I do want to say welcome to the show. Really appreciate coming to you on Big C Sports Podcast. Today's show is sponsored by your Northern California Cadillac dealers, home of the all-new Cadillac Escalade, the standard of the world. When you go by and test drive yours, just tell them that Charlton and Big C sent you. As I say, welcome to the show all around the world, powered by 17 podcast applications, from Google to Alexa, Spotify, Spreaker Podcast, Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio Podcast, CastBox, Deezer Podcast, Podcast Addict, Podchaser, Geosafon out of London, England, Podtail, Podcast Addict, and Hubhopper, as well as Stitcher, Radio Line, and Luminary Podcast. Really appreciate that. Also, you can follow Big C Sports Podcast on television. That's 4 TV platforms: Xfinity, Comcast TV, Apple TV, Roku TV, Amazon Fire TV, and a lot of smart TVs all over the universe. Really appreciate that. I love paying homage to Ancestry.com, but I do my own Ancestry.com. My family legacy on my mother's side, the great-grandmother, called her Mamo, the matriarch of the family. Always did whatever it took to keep the family together through thick and thin, with God's word and a lot of love, and made sure everybody had food in the belly. Really appreciate that. Pop, my great-grandfather Pop, he was a former Negro League baseball player, very smart businessman, very good at growing the best moonshine in the history of the universe. Had a great way of saying, boy, get out of that barn. All fair and Love and War. And then my grandmother, Mud Deer, she was a seer. She could look people in the eye and tell them things that are going to happen to them. Sometimes it was hard to believe that when I was a little boy. As I got older, I really started appreciating that even more so to this day. A very smart businesswoman and made sure the family stayed together through thick and thin. Also, Hezekiah, my grandfather, my mother's side, a very good seer and a business person as well. And my beautiful mother helped start a daycare and also a Head Start program in Northern California, as well as helping to win the Little League Championship of the universe. Really appreciate that. And always saying, always rise and shine. Very good at telling you what people are like, and she hasn't been wrong, and I really appreciate that. Also, on my father's side, my grandfather, named Albert Curry, very intelligent businessman, a pastor, started 2 churches. In fact, he built a church, as well as owned 2 service stations in Oakland, California, back in the 70s. Really appreciate that. Very smart man. And then my grandmother, Alberta Curry, she was also a person that helped start the churches with my grandfather and also helped work the service stations in Oakland, California. Did everything possible to keep the family together through thick and thin. And my father, retired Air Force fighter pilot and chief mechanic, made sure that planes could fly high so we can stay safe in this country. Also, my brother Todd had the great voice, a loud voice, and always said, excuse me, did I break your concentration? That's why I get my loudness from my channel, Todd. It's all fair and Love and War. As I say, let's get ready to rumble. It's all fair and Love and War. Big C Sports, SB nominated Big C Sports Podcast. No scripts, no 3-minute teleprompters, no producer in my ear. All I got is some earwax, and I'm keeping it as much as I can to stay warm for the holidays. All fair and Love and War. I love honoring my son, Malcolm, who keeps me full with NBA stats. He's all over it. My daughter, Daisy, at times will help me in the past when she helped me set up for sporting events. When college coaches came to the West Coast, she would help me get information on them. Really appreciate that. And then Big C with his breadth of knowledge in the past. So I produce, I direct the topics, I broadcast all the shows, I do all the sound effects, as well as the commercials. I do the stats providing. Man, I needed more stats for the Braves last night, but the Houston are going back to Houston for Game 6 of the World Series, maybe even a Game 7. I do the storytelling, and guess who's coming to dinner? Excuse me, Dad, I break your concentration. I do the play-by-play, the pitch, swung on, hit deep, right field, back to the wall, home run. Say hello to my little friend. It's all fair and Love and War. That came from Scarface. Say hello to my little friends. And then I upload every show to 17 podcast applications. I don't upload them all. The network does that. It goes out to 17 podcast applications. I started with one application back on the September the 12th, 2015. I never missed a show since starting Big C Sports on September 12th, 2015. It's all fair and level. Well, one of my favorite scriptures in the Bible is Genesis 13:15. It says, "For all the land that thou seest will I give you, and thy seed forever." And talking to my funding company today, expecting that 7-figure in funding for Big C Sports. Really appreciate that. The book of James 4:2 said, "We have not because we ask not." So if you want something to just ask, don't worry about who you're asking. Just ask anyway. The answer is either yes or no. And I hope that people will always ask, as I will ask, to always contact if you know any veterans going through crisis. A lot of people are going through crisis. Football players, families go through crisis. Everybody has something. But we have a veterans crisis hotline. They really are experienced helping veterans and their loved ones get help when they need it. All you got to do is pick up the phone, call 800-273-8255. That's 800-273-8255. Or you can text 838-255. That's 838-255. If you know any veterans going through crisis, you can get some help for our veterans and their loved ones. Also, you can go online to veteranscrisisline.net. That's veteranscrisisline.net and get some help for our veterans. Also, I'm very happy to be affiliated with Valley Homes Weekly TV on Dish TV, DirecTV, AT&T Uverse, TV of, it used to be the first place San Francisco Giants, but we know that season's over. But when you reach out to them, just tell them Big C sent you. You know we're going to win it next year. I can't say it. Maybe I'll get drafted by the Giants. They could use a good closer. You know, I did strike out 11 batters one time when I played Little League Baseball, and I still got a good arm. And we also have the chance to cover sports year-round. We also have for real estate the Big C Team Real Estate Dating app. Just because houses get lonely too. You don't want a lonely house. House needs to be full of people running through, and all that noise that kids make is all fair and love and war. You can reach out to the BigCSports.pacwm.com. Most of our loans are underwritten by Rocket Mortgage and United Wholesale Mortgage, the number 1 and 2 lenders in the country on the wholesale side. Our goal is simple: recruit 10,000 real estate agents and brokers to put property listings on TV, just like McDonald's does it. Nike does it. Car dealerships are doing it. Sports teams are doing it. Watch TV and real estate work for you. 800-772-8624. That's 800-772-8624. Also, I want to say thank you to Xfinity, Comcast TV, and Comcast Spotlight Effect TV for presenting Big C Sports to the universe. Just like in Genesis 1:3, God said, "Let there be light." Open your cell phones and say play. Big C Sports Podcast. You will see our apps pop up all over the universe. And I really do appreciate the way things have grown with Big C Sports. Also, I want to say thank you to Budweiser Zero. It has 0% alcohol and 100% on its game. Sports fans, when you're watching the big games, especially the World Series or NFL football, you can watch them on eating the Big C Burger. It's a tasty burger and it comes with what's all this exotic meat. And you know you love it. Everybody loves the exotic meat. If you don't know what exotic meat is, then you haven't lived long enough. That makes sense here. It's all fair level. I'm going to take what's called the Big C pause, also known as the Big C timeout. When I come back, going to talk about some NFL football, college football, and World Series. It's all fair and love and war. In the words of the former California Governor Arnold Schwarzenegger, I'll be back. All right, we are back from the Big C pause, also known as the Big C timeout. You can follow Big C Sports 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, of the number 1 podcast network in the universe. According to a lot of good boys that follow sports, again, 17 podcast applications. I hear that 18 is on the way, and then also 4 TV platforms, maybe a 5th TV platform for Big C Sports. Really do appreciate the growth having with Big C Sports podcast. Oh, man, a lot of good things are happening. Are you ready for the football? Of course you are. There's a lot of good football games that have happened all over the universe. Even some good old boys are deciding to change their zip codes in the world of football. Who would have ever thought that when you look at the Denver Broncos, I'm going to get into some NFL football, but I want to say one of the biggest news stories, we have Monday Night Football coming up too, but Von Miller still has a lot of raw emotions. The Denver Broncos agree to trade him to the Los Angeles Rams. So this segment is sponsored by the Big C Burger. It's a tasty burger, and it comes with, what's all this exotic meat? When you think about it, Denver Broncos have agreed to trade 8-time Pro Bowl linebacker Von Miller to the Los Angeles Rams today, and the Rams sent a second-round pick, a third-round pick in the 2022 NFL Draft to the Broncos in exchange for the 8-time Pro Bowler. Von Miller will also pay $9 million of his remaining $9.7 million base salary for the remaining 9 games of the regular season, and sources are saying that Von Miller was an emotional reaction. He's been a staple at Denver since he came out of Texas A&M, sitting in the backseat of the SUV as he left the Broncos facility today, told reporters that he was surprised by the trade. You know, they can trade you, they can bring you in and ship you out, but it's okay because he has $9 million to put in his pocket to do them. And still the kind of hard to put in the words he was saying. From his own mouth, it's still a raw feeling. But he says, thank you to the Denver brass, everybody that helped him get what he got in Denver, which is an 8-time All-Pro NFL linebacker. Also went to the Super Bowl with the Denver Broncos at Super Bowl 50 out in San Francisco, Santa Clara. But he said it's still hard. He can't really put it into words. He said somebody told him once you want to make God laugh and then you make plans, you just got to keep going forward. No matter what happens in life, you got to go forward. You got to rise and shine as long as you wake up in the morning. Rise and shine. Don't worry about who's rising and shining with you. But he has a beautiful baby boy, a lot of beautiful years in Denver. When you think about it, it's a good thing. He gets something younger and prettier, if that makes sense to you, because the Rams have a younger team. They have a brand new stadium, the SoFi Stadium in Southern California, whether you call it Los Angeles or Inglewood. He's going to join the Rams that are 7-1, a team that is among the favorites to win Super Bowl 56, or at least to get there. They're a great team. He's been a huge fan of Aaron Donald. Could you imagine that defense? Now they have Aaron Donald on that team, and they got a great defense. He's excited. He's always been a great teammate and going to continue that. Miller said, adding that he hopes to play on Sunday night when the Rams, they host Tennessee, and also Tennessee's going to be without touchdown Derrick Henry, who also has a hitch in his giddy-up, maybe out for the season. But when you think about Von Miller, he's completed a blockbuster trade for Matthew Stafford with the Rams. They got a Matthew Stafford also started the season from Detroit. Now they get Von Miller, something about animals they love, whether it's a lion or a bronco. But when you think about it, last month with the trade deadline looming for the Rams, Coach Sean McVay said he did not anticipate any big splash moves, but they're not going to forecast whatever they're doing. They got Jalen Ramsey. When you think about that, think about it. Now Miller's going to provide much-needed reinforcement to a defense that has already a slight climb from last year's top-ranked performance, despite starting 3-time NFL Defensive Player of the Year and All-Pro cornerback Jalen Ramsey. You think about it, Miller is just going to add to the greatness of what they have. I'm going to talk about the sacks before I get into the entire NFL. Von Miller has the most sacks since 2011. 111 sacks since he entered the NFL in 2011. And that's the lead over that span. It's Von Miller, 111 sacks, Chandler Jones, 102, and then J.J. Watt, who's off for the season, with 102. When you think about it, he was the final year of a 6-year, $114.5 million contract. He signed late 2016. It was 6 months after he won Super Bowl 50 with the Denver Broncos over the Carolina Panthers. He's scheduled to be an unrestricted free agent the following season. But I think the Rams just got better. They say the rich get richer. Well, the Rams just got better. Give the Rams some praise. Give them praise for bringing in Von Miller, an 8-time Pro Bowler, to add to what they already have. It seems like the rich do get richer in the NFL, and I'm sure he's going to add to what the Los Angeles Rams just got a lot better. I don't care what people say about Miller. I know he had injuries to deal with over the years, but who hasn't? He still leads the NFL in sacks since he came on to the Denver Broncos, and you got to love that type of performance. Came in 2011, 8-time Pro Bowler. It's all fair and level war, so we got to give him praise. I want to touch on what happened over Week 8 with some NFL news, some highlights, some analysis from Sunday's games. And I don't know if you know about it, but the Chargers, wow, all fair and level war. But I'm going to start with the Jets. We know it's the last week before Tuesday's NFL trade deadline. There'll be a couple more things to talk about before we close out Tuesday's show. But the Jets' Mike White threw for 400 yards in a win over the Bengals. Nobody saw that coming except for the bookies in Las Vegas. The Panthers defeated the Falcons as Sam Darnold suffered a concussion. And then the Steelers, Mike Tomlin says, just keep winning. All they do is keep winning. They stepped up in a big win over the Browns. and then the Titans outlasted the Colts. Carson Wentz, 2 turnovers in the fourth quarter, 1 in the end zone, of interception in the end zone, in his own end zone, not going in for a touchdown, in his own end zone. Could have just taken the sack and would have been a safety, or thrown the ball out of the end zone, whatever it is. But he took an interception, and that turned into a touchdown. It's all fair and love and war. I really think when you think about football, it's amazing. Also, look at what the Cowboys did. How about them Cowboys, where they ran over the Minnesota Vikings 20-16 over in Minnesota, a game that Kirk Cousins said, no, I don't like that. I don't like that. All fair and love and war. I'm just going to recap what happened last week. Green Bay 24-21 over Arizona, snapping the Cardinals' unbeaten win streak. So the Miami Dolphins, they were all celebrating. Buffalo Bills 26-11 over the Miami Dolphins, and it's sponsored by the Big C Burger. It's a tasty burger that comes with, what's all this exotic meats when you think about it, a Dolphin and a Bill, or a Buffalo, or exotic meats. San Francisco 49ers, Jimmy G went back home in front of his home crowd. He grew up in near Chicago, near, I believe, O'Hare Airport, and then went out to New England, got traded to the 49ers. They get a big win. Justin Fields had his probably best game of the year also. You can see how special he's going to be for Chicago. But the 49ers with a big 33-22 win at Soldier Field, and that's a big win for the 49ers. They get back on the winning streak, snapping a 4-game losing streak. And there's something about the 49ers and animals. They beat the Lions, that's an animal. They beat the Eagles, that's an animal. And they beat the Bears, they're all animals. So the 49ers, next they have the Cardinals. That's an animal too, that's a bird. And rumor has it, maybe Kyler Murray still has a hitch in his giddy up. Don't be surprised if the 49ers knock off the Arizona Cardinals coming back to Levi Stadium and beautiful San Francisco, Santa Clara. The Pittsburgh Steelers, we've got a feeling the Steelers are not going to the Super Bowl, but they may just make the playoffs. Cleveland, this is not for you. Pittsburgh, Big Ben Roethlisberger, 15. Cleveland Browns under Baker Mayfield makes more TV commercials than anybody. 10. They scored. Beckham had one reception. They don't even want to throw to him. He might be traded before the deadline also. Philadelphia came out of the shadow. The Eagles fly high because they take themselves lightly. 44-6 over the Detroit Lions. I thought the Lions had a chance. This game is sponsored by the Big C Burger. It's a tasty burger, and it comes with, what's all this exotic meats? And a eagle and a lion are exotic meats. Tennessee Titans 34-31 overtime win over Indianapolis. But the bad news is the injury to touchdown Derrick Henry has a foot injury. May keep him out for the season. Still looking for the update on that. The New York Jets 34, Cincinnati Bengals 31. What an upset win there. LA Rams blew up the Houston Texans 38-22. That game was a lot more lopsided than the score indicate. And then can you believe the Chargers touchdown? Justin Herbert threw a pass to a safety that was waiting on it. The receiver turns the wrong way. Man, that makes you think that sometimes games are going by script as opposed to, that was just a bad taste in the mouth for the Chargers. They had that game won, but you got to get New England into the playoffs. 27-24, the New England Patriots over the Los Angeles Chargers. Seattle 31, Jacksonville 7. Game is sponsored by the Big C Burger. It's a tasty burger, and it cuts with what's all those exotic meats? A Seahawk and a Jaguar are exotic meats. Denver 17, Washington 10. But I want to go back to Seattle got their first win at home this year in front of Lumen Field. Isn't that crazy? Their first win at home at Lumen Field in Seattle, and they needed the 12th man, showed up and showed out all friend level war. What's going on? Denver Broncos get a win over the Washington football team, and Denver with touchdown Teddy Bridgewater. They're a little bit shakier on defense because Von Miller's going to be in Los Angeles now. I guess they figure they get the 2 draft picks next year as they want to try to get younger up in Denver. New Orleans, who they say they're going to beat them Saints? Would you believe Tom Brady is 1-3 versus New Orleans since he went to Tampa? New Orleans 36, Tampa Bay 27. Brady throws a pick 6 at the end of the game, and that's uncharacteristic, but he's also he's the only one to throw for over 600 touchdown passes in the NFL, so give him praise for that. Jameis Winston, oh my goodness, I hate saying this, but he's out for the season with a torn ACL and MCL on carpet down in the Superdome in New Orleans. I just kind of wish he would have taken a knee or slide down. He was scrambling out of the pocket, got horse collared, and that's why they outlawed that play. You can't grab a player behind the back of his jersey and pull them down, but it ended his season. He was playing better, but you hate to see that happen. But things happen in the NFL, all fair level war. We have the New York Giants and the Kansas City Chiefs already underway, 8:15 p.m. kickoff tonight on ESPN, and it's all fair and level war. But I want to touch on what happened. The Cleveland, this is for you. The Cleveland Browns, they had a crossroads after the loss to Pittsburgh. You would think about it. The Browns, they lost 15-10 at home. This is home, not on the road. Remember, they were blown out by the Cardinals when the Cardinals went in there. They just keep losing. So is it too much to ask that maybe the Browns should start looking at maybe not making the playoffs and trade Odell Beckham and get something for him? The Browns are 4-4. They're only a game back in the win column of the 5-2 Ravens and the 5-3 Bengals. Cleveland's next opponent. There's too much balance in the division. I think any team's going to run away with it. I still have the Baltimore Ravens winning that division. A lot of people were saying that Cincinnati might do it, but when you can't beat the Jets, maybe they're not used to winning. I'm still going to go with Baltimore winning. They've done it before. But the Browns, they're 1,000 miles from perfect on Sunday. Still had chances to win. But the team lacks a lot of offensive, I guess you would call it, panache. They don't have the moxie that people thought they may have coming into the season. They can't create turnovers on defense to make up for it. There's a long season ahead for the Browns. They need to start making the big plays. The Browns held the Steelers to 15 points, and they still lost the game. It's going to be a stinging sensation that they feel for some time. That stinging sensation that they feel, that's pride messing with them. Forget about pride, if that makes sense to you. But what a bad October for Cleveland. This is a team that went into October. A lot of people thought that they were going to be the team that knocked off the Baltimore Ravens, but that's not going to happen. I want to take it down to the South, in New Orleans, in Dixie. Who that said they're going to beat them Saints? Things certainly don't look good after Jameis Winston's teammate helped them off the field onto the cart. Took him into the locker room first half of the Saints game against the Buccaneers. Saints coach Sean Payton called it a significant injury. We all know that he's out for the season with a torn ACL and MCL. So we wish him nothing but the best. He was having a better season this year than he had when he last played with Tampa. What a shame to be injured against a team that traded you. But it happens in football. Now, Sean Payton obviously was able to rely on Trevor Siemian to replace touchdown Jameis Winston. Threw for a touchdown pass while leading the Saints to a 36-27 come from behind win over Tom Brady and that defense for the Buccaneers. If Winston's out long-term, and he is, the Saints would have looked to Siemian in the interim. But I think Cam Newton's still out there. He has plenty of primary backups this year. Taysom Hill is currently also out with concussion protocol. And then rookie Ian Book out of Notre Dame and also Northern California, played at Oak Ridge High School up in Sacramento. He's been a healthy scratch all season. But why not bring in Cam Newton? Sometimes ego, whatever it is. I guess they'd rather not have a former NFL MVP. But we'll see what happens with Peyton and the New Orleans Saints. Who that say they're going to beat them Saints? I told you last Friday, if they run wide and get to the perimeters against the defense, that they would have a chance to beat Tampa. I said it was an upset special happened. You can go back to Friday's show to hear that. Man, it was a wild scene, though. The end of the Saints and the Bucks. I just feel that people thought that when Tom Brady got the ball back with about a minute and a half to play, that it was going to be a win for Tampa Bay. But at the end of the day, you got to trust the defense. They came up when they pulled off you can even call it an upset if you wanted to, but don't call it a comeback. All's fair in love and war. I want to tell you, the Titans are a team to fear after beating the Ravens. When you think about it, I feel that everybody in the league, you look at what the Titans have done. They have some big wins this year, and they go into Indianapolis to get a win, but they lose touchdown Derrick Henry. I'll talk about that a little later. I want to take you to a game that I thought was a joke of a game for NFL football. The Patriots, they get to Justin Herbert, had a really bad game. The Chargers now slide all the way back down to 500. You can say Bill Belichick's defense, they hounded Justin Herbert for the second year in a row. And the Patriots offense did just enough for a 27-24 road victory over the Chargers on Sunday. New England got back to 500 at 4-4, while the Chargers, man, they were 4-3 coming off a bye week, lost the second straight game. The Chargers led 7-0 and also 14-7 in the half. But think about that. In the first half, then the Patriots defense intercepted Herbert twice on some really bad decision-making, including a 26-yard pick six by former Charger Adrian Phillips to give New England a 24-27 lead with 10 minutes to play in that ball game. But I think there were some shenanigans in that game. No reason the Chargers should have lost that game. but that's my opinion. I'm sticking with it. P.J. Williams for the game-winning interception. P.J. Williams stealing interception. Tom Brady gave the Saints a huge NFC win over the division-leading Bucks. When you think about it, didn't happen. The Saints, 36-27 win, did most of this without Jameis Winston, who was injured. The Saints have won 3 of 4 against the Bucks since Tom Brady arrived. I talked about that earlier. When you think about it, I don't know what to say about the Saints, but why not bring in Cam Newton? You got to think about it. The Bucks have a 27-26 lead, 2 minutes warning in New Orleans thanks to the play. The Saints have the first and goal, the Bucks 9. Something had to give the NFC South meeting. And it turned out that usually when Tampa Bay would make all the big plays with Tom Brady, they did it against the Dallas Cowboys. They also did it against New England Patriots. He drove them down to field goals and they won. Didn't happen this time. Brady threw a pick 6 and the Saints went on to win. The Saints go marching in and the Saints went marching in. But I want to talk about a team that had a chance to tie late. That's Washington against Denver. The Broncos should be trying to play out the final minute of the season of the game, but instead fumbled and Washington took over at the Denver 24-yard line. But they still had a nice comeback, and they got to win. And then they traded away their best defensive player. Isn't that something? You got to keep in mind, Von Miller's he's a real deal. He's going to the Rams now. They're going to hope that future draft picks can turn things around for the Denver Broncos. Not so good, my friend. An onside kick up in Seattle, not so good for Jacksonville. An onside kick return for a touchdown. That's a very sight when you have that up in the great state of Washington, the Seattle Seahawks. They got Seattle Seahawks, all fair and level war. But I love what's going on. When you think about Urban Meyer, a potential for action of saying that Wednesday that the team's phone is buzzing while a 1-5 outfit is finding a new way to lose games, self-inflicted, and then going up into the beautiful city of Seattle, Washington. They had an onside kick return for a touchdown by the Seattle Seahawks. And what a great place to play a football game at Lumen Field. And it's nice to see the Seattle Seahawks finally get back on the side of winning. That's their first game that they won at home this year. You would have never thought that Seattle would go that far into the season and be winless. So they're no longer sleepers in Seattle. They got to win, and they needed it really bad, especially Pete Carroll trying to keep that team focused on the right track. Congratulations to the Seahawks getting that win. All fair and level war. You know, I want to touch on what happened in Minnesota. I even said before the NFL Network said it on Sunday that Dak Prescott was ruled out. If you go back to Friday, I called that Dak Prescott would not play the game against the Dallas Cowboys, and I based it on a little birdie told me, but the point spread down in Las Vegas, the Cowboys went from a 5-point favorite down to a 1.5-point favorite. The only thing that I can put my heads on is Dak Prescott injury was more severe than reported, and they really didn't need him. So Dallas Prescott was out, and the Vikings, Cooper Rush made his first NFL start. And Prescott was inactive for Sunday. I said he would not play Friday. The rest of the NFL and ESPN told you that Sunday. So Minnesota's game, when you think about it, after a week of limited practices due to a strained right calf, Cooper Rush made his first NFL start and replaced a Prescott, and the Cowboys got a good deal out of him. They got a 20-16 win over Minnesota and Kirk Cousins. You like that? You like that? It's all fair in level war. But the Cowboys, they stay atop the NFC East, and they really are a team to beat as you look at them in first place. And even if they had lost that game to Minnesota, they're probably still going to win the NFC East. I mean, you think about it, Vikings wide receiver Adam Thielen showed up appropriately dressed for the game of the Cowboys as he showed he was like a Viking with a hot but scary mask. It's all fair in level war. I want to just really briefly touch on the Buffalo Bills and the Miami Dolphins. Orchard Park, New York. Josh Allen shook off Russ from a bye week and a shaky first half to throw touchdown passes for consecutive second half drives, leading the Buffalo Bills after managing 100 yards in that offense to the Buffalo's first possession in the third quarter. Think about this team. They played a bad game when they won 26-11 over the Dolphins. Allen found his rhythm overseeing the pair of scoring drives, combined 22 plays and covered 151 yards. Now the Bills went ahead 10-3 in the third quarter. This offense only went ahead 10-3 in the third quarter. They were a little bit off their stride against the Miami Dolphins. They played them well at times. But when you think about it, Gabriel Davis 8-yard touchdown reception. He followed that by capping a 9-play, 69-yard drive. Stephon touchdown Diggs on a post route for a 19-yard touchdown. The Dolphins kept the lead 17-11. Tua Tagovailoa 1-yard plunge and a 2-point conversion by Mike Gesicki early in the fourth quarter. I'm telling you, the Dolphins got to find a way to bring in. If you can't bring in Deshaun Watson, why not bring in Cam Newton? You keep saying that Tua's your guy. You scored 11 points. You only scored 11 points. He can't be your guy. If that's your guy, then the season is not really going to be good for Flores, because as an African-American coach, they don't tend to keep coaches too long. He can't assume that they're going to keep him around just because he's been the coach there. If you don't win in Miami and everybody's hungry, they can get rid of you fast, coach. I would bring in a veteran quarterback and give yourself a chance to keep a job. The trade deadline is Tuesday. You might want to figure out a way to do something. Allen responded by marching the Bills on a 14-play drive, ended with Tyler Bass hitting a 39-yard field goal. But they got a 26-11 win. Allen would wave goodbye to the Dolphins after scoring a 7-yard touchdown with 1:07 left in the game. Finished 29 of 42, 249 yards. Had a team best 55 yards in rushing. The Bills are now 5-2, rebounded from a heartbreaking 34-31 loss to Tennessee on October 18th by continuing their dominance over the AFC East. And the Dolphins fall to 1-7. That's not a good look for Miami. They were celebrating that the Arizona Cardinals lost and went to 7-1, so they're not going to have a threat to the undefeated 72 season. But they got to figure out a way. I think Flores, bring in Tua and tell them you got to go with somebody else. Bring in Cam Newton. You got to have a veteran. The season's not really over yet, but it's getting close to it. It's getting really close to it. You know it's over, but they got to start winning or try to go get, in my opinion, I would just say right now, who knows what's going on with Watson and Houston. But why not bring in Cam and give your team a chance to have more mobility on offense? That's just my opinion. The Eagles 44, the Lions 6. This segment is sponsored by the Big C Burger. It's a tasty burger, and it comes with what's all this exotic meat. The Eagles score 44. Detroit Bad Boys. Boston Scott and Jordan Howard each had 2 touchdowns on the ground, helping the Philadelphia Eagles run over the winless Detroit Lions. The Eagles now 3-5. They ended a 2-game losing streak, a team that was very the Lions are 0-8. 0-8 and going to the bye week. They needed it. I don't think they'll go 0-17. They're going to find a way to beat somebody. Dan Campbell's extra time to figure out how long and what to do to not become 0-17 this season. Wow. Think about it. The first 0-16 team in Detroit 13 years ago. Just to make the setback look a little bit more striking, the Lions looked like they gave up. 44-6 at home against an Eagle team that was struggling. I think offensively you got to challenge the Lions. They avoided a shutout midway through the fourth quarter with rookie Jamar Jefferson scored an 8-yard run for his first NFL touchdown. The Lions look like a bad NFL team. Man, you got to do something to change that around, and I don't know what it is. They got 6 points at home. 6 points at home to the Eagles that were struggling. All fair and level war. They say the rich get richer, and you got to give the Rams some praise. 38-22 over the Texans. The game wasn't that close. Touchdown, Matthew Stafford threw for 305 yards, 3 touchdowns in 3 quarters. The Rams dominated the Houston Texans. It's the 4th straight road victory for the Rams, or the 4th straight victory for the Rams that are 7-1, and the 7th loss in a row for the Texans, 1-7. The longest skid has dropped in the final 14 games of the 2013 season. When you think about touchdown, Matthew Stafford had an 11-yard touchdown pass to Cooper Kupp, who's amazing. Cooper Kupp, one of the best receivers in the NFL. About 9.5 minutes left in the third quarter, and took the Rams to a 31-0 lead, and then they let up. They let up after a 31-0 lead. Cooper Kupp, 7 catches, 115 yards. Darrell Henderson had 90 yards rushing on 2 touchdowns, 1 on the ground, and a 1 3-yard reception in the first quarter. I'm telling you, the rookie Davis Mills passed for 310 yards and 2 touchdowns. Rex Burkhead had a 1-yard scrum run with about 8 minutes left. The Rams look very, very strong. Again, they were up 31-0 before they let off the horn, and they ended up winning 38-22. That's a team that's looking to challenge for the first place in the NFC West. This is a game coming up that I was surprised by. The Panthers with a win over the Falcons down in Atlanta. I know Atlanta's ablaze with the World Series in town. They paid homage to Hammer and Hank Aaron. And the Braves fans were, I don't know if that's offensive or paying homage, I don't know. But the Falcons, maybe they were more interested in the World Series than playing the Panthers. The second sponsored by the Big C Burger that comes with what's all this exotic meat? Last I heard, a Panther and a Falcon are exotic meat. But Zane Gonzalez kicked the 4 field goals and Chuba Hubbard scored a 6-yard run, 6.5 minutes remaining, helping the Panthers stop a 4-game skid. Matt Ryan, wow. Arthur Blank, Matt Ryan, and Cam Newton can't get a job, but he's from Georgia. Carolina's defense totally stifled Matt Ryan and the Falcons, who managed just 213 yards of total offense. $155 million contract. Ryan had one of the worst games of his career, throwing 146 yards and 2 interceptions, and Cam Newton from Georgia can't even get a drive. Wow. That's not good. He was sacked 3 times and sustained a bloody cut from that tough defense of the Carolina Panthers' 9-throwing hand. The Panthers defense stepped up, though, when the Ryan couldn't find players were open. Atlanta falls to 3-4. Had won 2 straight games, but the Falcons squandered a chance to climb above 500 for the first time since 2017. And Arthur Blank keeps playing Matt Ryan. Why? Cam Newton from Georgia can't get a job. With the job on the line, Sam Darnold turned a performance that was just good enough for the win. He had a concussion, had to leave the game. The Carolina goes to 4-4, threw for 129 yards, and Cam Newton can't get a job. And he used to play for Carolina with the NFL MVP. And Sam Darnold comes in and throws for 129 yards. He's a starter. He also rushed for 66 yards in the last of those runs, was knocked out with a concussion. All fair and level war. But they got the win in Atlanta. Maybe they were paying attention to the World Series game. I'm going to tell you something. Are you ready for the football? West Coast now. West Coast, baby. The San Francisco 49ers, they knock off the Chicago Bears. And there was a tough game to win on the road. Jimmy Garoppolo threw for 322 yards. And he also ran for 2 touchdowns. And San Francisco beat the shorthanded Chicago Bears. They didn't have Khalil Mack in that game. But they snapped a 4-game losing streak. Give the 49ers some praise. Give them praise. Jimmy G led 3 touchdown drives with scoring in the second half. And he scored a possession with a field goal. He scored from the 2. He actually scored from the 2 in the third quarter. He ran it in from the 5-yard line on the 4th down. Then we get 30-22. The great Deebo Samuel, 6 catches, 171 yards. Had a long catch and run down to the 1-yard line. And then Jimmy G actually marked him at the 2. Jimmy G ran it in from there. Think about this, 171 yards. That gave him 819 yards through 7 games. Through 7 games, give him some praise. Trey Lance and also Jimmy G. 819 yards through 7 games. That's pretty impressive. That's a year's performance by a lot of receivers. Think about that. Breaking Hall of Famer Jerry Rice's club record of 781 set in 1986 through 7 games. Got to give him praise. Elijah Mitchell carried 18 times, 137 yards and a touchdown, helping the 49ers go to 3-4. And for the win, the first time since beating Detroit and Philadelphia on the road to start the season. Chicago falls to 3-5, looking for a comeback, really, a bounce-back losses to Aaron Rodgers in Green Bay and Tom Brady in Tampa Bay. And the Bears figured the second half against the Garoppolo was going to be good for them. But I'm telling you, they had Jimmy G 100 fans back home, and he came back home and got a win. And they needed it. They didn't have Khalil Mack, the top pass rusher. Missed the game. His first miss since 2018 because of a foot injury. Matt Nagy was away because he had COVID-19. Justin Fields threw 175 yards and a touchdown. He also ran for 103 yards in a score. He had a great game. Give that rookie some praise. He's probably having the best rookie career in the NFL. All-star level war. When you think about it, Cairo Santos made 3 field goals from the regular season and it record 38 consecutive conversions, but missed an extra point after Fields' elected 22-yard touchdown run, and that hurt the Bears at home. Chicago set up for a field goal to Santos after driving to the 5 on the opening possession of the second half, extended his lead to 16-9. But the 49ers, when you think about what they had to do, they had to go on the road and get a win. Santos was wide right on an extra point, keeping San Francisco on top 23-22 with 9:32 left. I'm proud of the Niners going back and getting the win. They had to have that win in the worst way, and they got it done. So the Niners go on the road, they get a win. All fair on the board. When we come back, we're going to talk a little bit of college, we're going to say some college football. Are you ready for some college football? Of course you are. We'll take what's called the Big C Pause. In the words of the former California Governor, Arnold Schwarzenegger, I'll be back. All right, we are back from the Big C Pause, also known as the Big C Timeout. You can follow Big C Sports 24 hours a day, 7 days a week on 17 podcast applications all over the universe and 4 TV applications, all fair and level war. Are you ready for some college football? Of course you are. Fresno State knocking off number 25 San Diego State, knocking them from the ranks of the unbeaten. It was 30-20, but they played it at the Carson, California StubHub Center because San Diego State is building a new 35,000-seat on-campus stadium for the Mountain West Conference. That will open up next year as they will play Arizona. But I want to take you to the big game, really the big game. Over the weekend, there's a lot of big games. But Michigan State, Ohio State, and also Michigan State, Michigan. Michigan was down, when you think about it, Michigan State was down 16 points in the third quarter. It had a magical season on the brink. Michigan State outscored Michigan 23-3. Mel Tucker over Jim Harbaugh, 23-3. In the final 19 minutes to become the only unbeaten team in the Big Ten. The only unbeaten team in the Big Ten? Give them some praise. Give that praise. They have a star running back by the name of Kenneth Walker III, who might just be up for the Heisman contention, who ran for 197 yards and 5 touchdowns. 5 touchdowns. Give that good boy some praise. 5 touchdowns is a lot, picking it up and putting it down. The most Michigan error allowed in a single player since Walker should be at or near the top of every Heisman watch list. I still like, so far, Bryce Young out of Alabama for the Crimson Tide. But Michigan State's undefeated. It's all fair and level war. When you look at Jim Harbaugh has a tough time winning the big games, whether it's Ohio State, now Michigan State with Mel Tucker. Remember, they didn't give Mel Tucker what he wanted at Colorado, so he went and left the Pac-12 Colorado, went and joined Michigan State. Took a lot of flack, but he has that team playing good football. So give the great Mel Tucker some praise. He got more money too. It's all fair and level war. I'm gonna tell you, there's a lot of good things happening in NFL football, but college football is amazing. You have number 1 Georgia. They go to 8-0, and they got a big win, defeated Florida 34-7. That's a big win in the SEC. And Cincinnati, there's some things that changed in college football. I'm gonna tell you my opinion. I know people love college football and they think about who should be the number 1 team in college football. But I know you can give that some praise too. I have my own thinking of college football. It doesn't mean that everybody's gonna like it, and that's okay. And that's okay because I want to look at some of the teams that have a chance for the college football playoffs, and things change. It's just my opinion, and I'm going to stick with it. But I'm going to go and give you my own thoughts on why the college football season, I mean, everybody has their own thoughts about who should be number 1 and number 2. But it's just a thought. And when you think about it, when you look at the top 10 college football playoffs ranking, you got to figure out why Ohio State is ranked ahead of Oregon when Oregon is a team that beat Ohio State. That's the bias that we talk about. Now, Georgia's going to be number 1 for sure. They head into the Tuesday night's rankings, and that'll be everybody's unanimous pick. But where will Cincinnati fall? I think they're going to fall because the Cincinnati Bearcats debut ranking means the Bearcats' chances of reaching the National Football Playoffs is going to be a little bit in jeopardy. They're not a Power 5 team. And everybody has their own thoughts about it. What does the playoff selection committee do about Oregon and Ohio State? The Buckeyes moved up in the coaches poll despite losing to the Ducks in September at home. At least in the early rankings, the committee historically, you got to look at a tiebreaker. Oregon beat Ohio State. So why would you have them behind Ohio State? Number 1, Georgia, 8-0. It's a no-brainer. They're number 1 since they've been shutting out almost everybody they play. Almost shut out Florida. The Florida got a late score. But it's a nice to the committee to look at Georgia being number 1 until they play Alabama. Maybe Alabama beats them. Number 2, I'm going to put Alabama. They had 3 turnovers in their loss on the road at Texas A&M. Alabama has 5 Power 5 wins. All 5 opponents with non-losing records. Think about that. Non-losing record and 3 coming on the road. the long loss to Texas A&M, no longer anyone's eyesore based on the Aggies' recent surge in the SEC standings. So Alabama is the biggest threat to Georgia. In fact, when they play head-to-head, and that's my opinion, they can score on Georgia. Now, I'm going to surprise some people. I'm going to put Michigan State at number 3. They're 8-0. They had a big win over Michigan. This is the only Power 5 team with 4 road wins. The only team in the crowded Big Ten East to still be unbeaten in games against ranked competition. They have, think about this, Michigan State had close calls against Indiana, but you're going to have close calls against conference teams. And Nebraska, 2 teams sitting at the combined 1-10 in conference play. And that ranks last in the Big Ten in pass yards allowed per game. Giving up 406 yards on Saturday against Michigan, but Michigan was ranked ahead of them. But the defense ranks 6th in yards allowed per game. I mean, they're a good team. I'm going to have to put them at number 3. I don't really like Cincinnati. I know they had a win over Notre Dame, but I'm going to put them at 4 anyway. But you think Cincinnati is the best team in Ohio? They're not a better team than Ohio State, and everybody knows that. But for politics, I'm not even going to put them there. I'm going to take you to Oregon. I'm going to put Oregon at number 4. They're 7-1. They beat Ohio State on the road, and that's enough for me. At some point, the quality of competition has to matter. They beat Ohio State in the Big Ten country. Okay? The Pac-12, to give Ohio State their only loss in comparison for now, they had head-to-head win. And they also had a tough win over a top 25 opponent, Fresno State, that knocked San Diego State from unbeaten contention. I'm going to put Ohio State behind Oregon. I'm going to put them at number 5. They're 7-1. They're the biggest wild card in the top 7 with the potential to land anywhere from number 3 to 7 based on how the committee balances out the rankings. The offense, think about this. Their offense is good. After a loss to Oregon, landing in the spot is not tough for me. They should never go above Oregon. Don't tell me about, and Oregon didn't have their best lineman in Thibodeau, who might be a number 1 pick in the NFL. But you got to put Ohio State there. I'm going to put Michigan State over Ohio State right now. They'll get a chance to figure it out as they get into the Big Ten championship game, a potential matchup, and they can run the table. I mean, that is waiting to happen. You want to put Notre Dame at number 9? No, I'm going to put number 7. I'm going to put Cincinnati because they're still undefeated. It's always going to be going uphill against them. They had some close wins. They're big wins over Notre Dame, and I'm just not impressed by it. They can offer Power 5 road wins. Beating Notre Dame is one of the best wins from the team in the football subdivision. But think about it. They are 8-0 against opponents with a combined 27-29 record. That's not good. They're playing a lot of weak teams. You want to look at another team that's undefeated? No one's clamoring for Wake Forest to be in top 3. They're 8-0. The committee is going to be impressed by Wake's unbeaten record so far. They play on an offense that ranks 5th nationally in scoring and 9th in yards per play. The Demon Deacons have 3 wins against opponents currently with winning records: Virginia, Syracuse, and Army. But Virginia think about this. What about Virginia? Virginia lost to Boise State 66-49. 66-49. I'm sorry, I beg your pardon. BYU 66, Virginia 49. And that's not a basketball score. But Boise State beat BYU on the road in Provo early in the year. So that knocks off the strength of competition in my opinion, when you look at Wake Forest, to say that they should be up there. And just for sake, I'm just going to give the Michigan Wolverines, I'll put them in there right around 10, 9 or 10. They're 7-1, whereas Michigan, Notre Dame is interesting. Ultimately, the Wolverines have November scheduled, including Indiana, Penn State, Maryland, Ohio State, to eventually pull away from the Irish with room to spare. Notre Dame fighting Irish. Their loss to Cincinnati, basically a playoff eliminator for Notre Dame. The Irish almost certainly can get the cozy landing spot on New Year's Six bowl game, putting Notre Dame ahead of Michigan. They got a win over North Carolina over the weekend. You know, they also had a close wins against Florida State, Toledo, Virginia Tech. All's fair in love and war. But that's my opinion. Everybody has their own opinion about who's going to get picked for the college football Final Four. And that's my thoughts, and I'm sticking with it. I'm sticking with it. It's all fair in love and war. I want to touch on the NFL Monday Night Football. Are you ready for some football? A Monday night party. Of course, everybody's ready for some Monday Night Football. And when you think about it, I love the thought, just the thought, that people are thinking that Kansas City's going to miss the playoffs this year. It's a great thought. Monday Night Football, New York Giants, or the New York Football Giants at the Kansas City Chiefs. The game's already underway. This week, the Chiefs hosting the New York Giants. And when you think about the season, when it started, no one would have thought that they'd be separated by a game coming into this. Right now, the Giants are 2-5. They're feeling good after a dominant 25-3 win over Carolina at home last week. They held the Panthers 173 yards of offense and just 11 first downs. Daniel Jones was a deficient 23 of 33, only 203 yards and a touchdown. The team struggled scoring as Graham Gano connected on the field goals of 44, 49, and 53 yards. Kansas City Chiefs, man, what's wrong with them? They're 3-4, but it's a good 3-4 if that makes any sense. They had a 27-3 loss at Tennessee, a horrible game for Patrick Mahomes, maybe his worst ever. Kansas City's lost 4 of his last 6 games after season opening win over the Browns. And look at how bad the Browns are playing now. They're a 500 team. Touchdown, Patrick Mahomes was the team's leading rusher with just 35 yards. Also managed just 206 yards through the air before leaving the game in the fourth quarter after taking a knee to the head. Now the defense struggles. They continue to struggle. Give up 379 yards, allowing the Titans to control the ball more than 36 minutes. Now they're playing tonight. It's already kicked off at 8:20 p.m. East Coast time. It's on ESPN. The Chiefs are a 9.5-point favorite. Man, against the Giants too. Do you really buy a 9.5-point favorite with as poorly as they've been playing? I don't know if you can do that because they haven't been playing good football, in my opinion. But it's all fair and level where they get a chance for redemption tonight, and we'll see if they can get it done or not. I'm also going to say I love baseball. Baseball is great. I'm going to just get on a little bit of what's going on in baseball. Atlanta, they still lead the series 3-2 after they fell at home last night to the team that nobody likes. Why do you not like, really when you think about it, why do you not like the Houston Astros? Because they cheated in baseball? Who said they cheated in Major League Baseball? I mean, Dusty Baker, you got to give him a credit. Because in Major League Baseball right now, he's actually kept the Houston Astros credible. You got to think about that. Nobody really likes them. They were a 9-5 win over Atlanta Braves in front of the Tomahawk Chop. Now they go back to Houston for games 6 and maybe 7. And they have the best pitching. And everybody hates them right now. But I really love the fact that they were able to keep the football kind of secondary for the season. I didn't want the series, the baseball, to end over the weekend, but they got a chance to go back. It's all fair and love and war. The Braves and Astros. We got Game 6 coming to you from Houston, and it's a game that a lot of people wanted to see. You want to see baseball close strong. We have fans in the ballpark for the first time this year after the COVID set off, where people couldn't come to games. The Astros denied the Braves a chance to win the World Series at home Sunday night, Game 5. But Atlanta still leads its best of 7 series, 3-2. Houston's going to try to force a winner-take-all Game 7 at Minute Maid Park. Now, the Astros are 95-67, had a better regular season than the Braves at 88-74. So Houston has home field advantage in the Fall Classic. It's all fair and love and war. I can't wait to see it. They're talking about for the starting pitchers, for Atlanta, it's going to be Lewis and then Garcia for Houston. It's an 8:09 first pitch on Fox Sports Game 6. The two sides did not meet during the regular season, but they haven't played one another since 2017 when the Astros went 4-0 against the Braves and outscored them by 25 runs in the regular season. It's fair to write those results down. When you think about it, this is a great series. Dusty Baker, I would love to see him win a World Series. He got close when he was with the Giants, and they lost to the Anaheim Angels down in Southern California a couple of years ago. It's all fair and love and war. So give them all some praise. Give them praise. Can't wait to see what happens as Major League Baseball will crown the 2021 World Series champion. Got some NBA basketball on hand for tonight on a beautiful Monday. It's kind of rainy all over the country. Cleveland, they're at Charlotte, 7 p.m. tip-off already on the way. Portland's at Philadelphia. San Antonio's at Indiana. The Chicago Bulls are at the Boston Celtics. Toronto's at the New York The New York Knickerbockers, Washington, they are at Atlanta. The Denver Nuggets at the Memphis Grizzlies. Ja Morant might be doing his thing. And then also you have Nikolai Jokic. Orlando's at Minnesota. Oklahoma City Thunder, they're at the LA Clippers. So a lot of things on hand tonight for the NBA basketball. Give NBA basketball some praise. Give it praise, praise, praise. Also on hand from Monday night in the NHL National Hockey League. Kind of a light schedule. Washington is at Tampa Bay, 7 p.m. drop of the Ike. Ottawa is at Chicago, and Seattle's at Edmonton for the NHL. As they drop on the ice, you can drop on the ice too. Everybody be safe on the Monday. The roads are a little bit slick, so please slow down when you drive. I know a lot of people don't want to do that. Really love the way Major League Baseball paid homage to Negro League Baseball and Hank Aaron. Every American should engage in the history of black baseball to understand the long history of what baseball has been in the life of Americans, especially as they paid homage to Hammer and Hank Aaron. Hank Aaron played 3 months with the Indianapolis Clowns and swept his way to baseball history. Really appreciate the way they celebrated Hank Aaron in beautiful Atlanta at Truist Park. You can follow Big C Sports 24 hours a day, 7 days a week on 17 podcast applications in the universe. Really appreciate that. 4 TV platforms also. Back in the days, there's a man by the name of Drew Boudini Brown. He was known as Muhammad Ali's right-hand man. He would always tell Ali, you float like a butterfly, you sting like a bee, you rumble, young man, rumble. He said, with all you've got to use, how can you lose? He told that to Ali. Ali said, with all these big cheeseburgers in my stomach, I can't possibly get beat. It makes me float like a butterfly and sting like a bee. I'm pretty, I can't possibly be beat. And that's why I'm like, on my feet, as my beautiful mother always says, there's never ever an excuse for racism or domestic violence. If you know any man, woman, or child going to that garbage, pick up the phone and ask for help, because no man, woman, or child should ever have to go through that garbage on their own, as we always tell you on every Big C Sports Show. We thank you, we appreciate you, and we hope that you have a super fantastic day.